Hello, leaders. Welcome back. Today's topic is why you need to be the great encourager. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, ugh, I don't want to encourage people. I just want people to show up and get the work done because I've got important work to do. But I want to remind you, as healthcare leaders who manage a workforce of people, you manage people who provide care to people, who heal them and get them better, right? And that they're interacting with people and not always seeing the best in people, right? Because people are in pain, they're, experiencing challenges, and they just are not well. And so we're not always seeing the best in people. And so day to day to day, those healthcare workers are constantly being hit by maybe patients and family members who are frustrated and annoyed. And over time, if you're not encouraging them, if you're not using one of your tools in your toolkit, which is that great encourager, you might find yourself in a situation where people are just going to say, I can't do it anymore. I mean, I don't want to do it anymore. It's too difficult. It's too hard. I'm burnout. And all of these reasons. It happens. And again, I'm going to remind you, if you just look at our world and you realize that there isn't a lot of people that are encouraging people to be their best. There's a lot of people who are very vocal and are very quick to be critical and to discourage people. That is natural tendency for most human beings. And so as leaders, we have to develop this superpower and skill and tool in our toolkit so that we wind up every day treating these experiences with enthusiasm and optimism, and actually making sure that we're looking at our team members and noticing when someone needs encouragement. That is so critical when it comes to leadership. So I want you to think back in time. I want you to imagine a time when you were a young child and you were doing something that you loved, and it was something you tried for the first time. Do you have a picture in your mind yet? For me, I'm already thinking about some of the things that I did. And I want you to imagine how you felt in that moment when you were just starting out. And then I want you to think about the person who encouraged you. What did that person do? What did they say? And how did that person's words affect the way you did that activity? Was it a parent? Was it maybe a teacher or a coach? Or maybe it was a grandparent? Or maybe it was a family friend? Or maybe it was just one of your friends? See, the most beautiful thing about this exercise is for just a moment you were thinking about something that happened to you when you were a young child and that incredible power that is associated with being a great encourager. When it comes to leadership, it is such an important leadership characteristic. I feel like it's one of the ones that are more important in some ways than so many other things. Because again, you're the role model. If you're an encourager, think about it. Your healthcare workers that are providing care delivery and services to people that are sick and not well, what do you think that they will do? Guaranteed they're going to turn around and they're going to encourage their patients and their family members to keep pressing forward instead of discouraging. And I will tell you, I feel like over my entire leadership career, when I think about people that encouraged me, when I had really challenging situations that I was trying to work through, I talk about this so openly because one of the things that did not come naturally for me was this leadership competency of resiliency despite adversity. Okay, for 3 years, I had this on my leadership development plan where every year I really looked at it and said to myself, what are those things that I'm going to do to build that consistent competency? And what do I mean by that? I mean, essentially, in a nutshell, it's just my ability as a leader to be able to brush off what happened yesterday and to reset and treat today as a brand new day. And why is that an important leadership competency? It's an essential competency because that is a skill that as leaders, you must be able to role model yourself. You must be able to come in each day and treat today as a new day. Brush off what happened yesterday and treat today as a brand new day going forward. And that you're going to look at it from a different lens and a different perspective. And boy, I had some really great mentors that challenged me to really think about what they wanted to see in me. They wanted to see consistency in me, like not inconsistency. They wanted to see consistency. So every single day, I was really working hard at making sure I was treating every day like a new day. And when I was circulating and I was working with my team members, I was getting them to look at their work in the same way. And why it took me 3 solid years? Because it's hard work to do sometimes for people. It's incredibly full of challenges, but it's necessary. And when it comes to leadership, I'm going to remind you that one of the biggest things we can never forget is that we lead people who turn around, and because of the way we lead them, they are going to react and respond in stressful situations in a similar way. So if you're not an encourager, you have a high probability that people aren't going to see that as an important characteristic themselves. And so I just want to say, I think, first and foremost, one of the most important things we can't forget is that we have to level set here. I mean, the people that come to work in the field of healthcare, for the most part, I'm not saying it's everybody, I'm saying for the most part, most people come to the field of healthcare because they are wired to care. They are a person who, this is entwined in their DNA. Care and compassion comes very naturally for these people. This is just who they are. They want to help people. They feel compelled to want to help people, and they want to do that from a place of love, right? That is where people come from. They're the helpers. They're the healers. They're the people that want to make things better. But in that care delivery, in the day-to-day, it is full of challenges. And part of your job as a leader is to teach people that despite what's happening, they can get through it. And you're going to encourage them to get through it. And that's why you need to be the great encourager. So, when I think of encouragement, I can't help but think about how fortunate I was in the craziness and the busyness of my day-to-day schedule, that for all 3 of my children, I was able to be present the first time that they took a step. And it was just a luck of a draw that it happened to be me. My poor husband, he feels so terrible that he never got to see those experiences, and it just happened that way. But when I think about that time when my kids were little and they were taking their first steps, I think about this is really the essence of what we're talking about with encouragement, right? And how it starts when we're young. So when my kids were standing up for the first time, right, they were sort of rocky and holding on maybe to that table or to that, walker or whatever it was that was in near reach. And they were wobbly. And where was I? I was in inches of them, right? But I was reaching out to them. I was encouraging them. I was saying to them, come on, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. Reach out to me. Absolutely, right? I was making a big fuss and making a big deal. And then, when they got that confidence, they would take that one single step and boom, land to the ground and fall down. And what did I do? Did I look at them and say, ugh, I can't believe you couldn't start walking right away? No, of course not. I mean, I wasn't admonishing them. What did I do? Scoop them right back up and say, you can do it again. Look at you. You can do it again. That's the power of encouragement, right? When we recognize what that does to us as human beings, is it gives us the confidence to actually want to get better and to do something and to reach out and to be better. That comes from leaders. That comes from the people that cared for us, right? Just imagine what our world would be like if instead every single parent never encouraged their kid to keep at it. I mean, don't you think that maybe we'd be stuck walking on all fours all the time and we'd never get up and learn that we could walk and take steps, and those steps would very quickly turn into us learning how to run? That's the power. And when it comes to leadership, I can't stress this enough. A big portion of this, in terms of the essential principles that you have to develop and you have to be aware of, self-aware in yourself, are principles of optimism. They're principles of enthusiasm. They're principles of passion and drive and execution and grit and pushing forward. Those are the things that you need to learn how to role model. You understand this. These are important characteristics. When you're leading people in a team, if you're coming to work and you don't have any of these, oh boy, everybody suddenly feels the weight and the burden of all of that daily care. Because a leader plays such an important role in being that great encourager, in being that person. And I'm going to tell you, you will always hear me say this. This is going to be really hard for some people, especially in leadership. I mean, it's hard for some people in general, but it's certainly hard for some leaders to really be able to be that role model where you're looking at yourself from that lens and saying, how can I show that I have these principles and I'm showing this in the day to day? And I want to believe for so many of us, I think it comes from a place that we are so busy in the day to day of being leaders that sometimes we just lose sight of how important these principles truly are, right? We forget that the work that our people are doing every day is difficult and full of challenges, and they're physical and emotional challenges. And so every day that can take a toll on the human spirit. And as a result of that, we have to come in and supplement that with encouragement. And again, I want to also believe some of it comes from, what we see in our world today. We're not seeing a whole lot of people that are just, encouraging people and pushing people forward to greatness. But I believe that the greatest of leaders, the ones that truly want to end their time here in life school and say, I did great work, are people that really wanted to role model what good looks like. And they recognize that the best leaders were the one that found that potential in somebody that might have been overlooked or someone who might have never noticed, and tapped into that and motivated and inspired and encouraged that person to achieve greatness despite what was happening around them. I mean, that's what I want to hope and believe. And when I think of leadership, it's 100% possible for every single one of you, because that's done through our words and our deeds and our actions. It's done by the words that we choose to use, the tone that we choose to use, and when we choose to respond versus we choose to react. And I want to believe that for the most part, for many leaders, people don't even recognize that they're doing this. They're just so busy in the day-to-day that they don't even realize that there are stressors that are happening to a person. There are triggers that are happening to a person, and that is sending a person down a pathway where maybe they're providing care and care delivery in a way where they're just going through the motions, where they're not really tuned in to that full superpower of healing. So I also know it's 100% possible that we could live in a world where, if we could imagine, every single leader could come from a place where when they were engaging with their team members, they were recognizing that the work was really full of challenges and that a big piece of this every single day is building into your daily practices how you need to slow down your pace, how you need to take a couple deep breaths in and out, and you need to do a really good job of recognizing stressful situations and responding in a way that shows compassion and empathy and love. And sometimes it's reframing your responses because you just want to respond in a way of, what in the world are you doing? You know that that's not going to help anybody. And so sometimes those exemplary leaders, they've learned that a big piece of this is just slowing down and looking at things more from a lens of using every experience as a teachable moment. And this is going to be hard for some people because it is so easy as leaders. And believe me, I was guilty as charged. It's quicker and faster for you just to tell people what to do. Listen, don't do this, do this. Don't do this, do this, right? It's faster. Of course it's faster. It's easier. Of course it's easier. It feels better. Of course it does. Because you feel like your role is to direct things. The best leaders are the ones that recognize that's not your role. Your role is to make sure you're using every experience as a teachable moment, to teach people to look inward at what happened in that moment and how they might have handled that differently. It's your role to practice your communication skills, to draw people into a conversation where you have dialogue and discussion. It's your role to really, instead of being that person that just walks on by and allows it to happen, it's your role to slow down and notice things and to have conversations with people and to create a space where there's a high degree of psychological safety there, where you can share things in a way and you can approach things in a way that's really coming from a place of love and not judgment of one another. And that's really difficult in healthcare because if you look at the average healthcare professional that's out there doing the work that they're doing, whatever the job is, boy, there's lots of frustration and there's lots of anger because why? Your patients, their family members, they're sick, they're not well, they're not able to control this. And for some people, control is a huge issue. And because they can't control things, they get angry, right? And they get frustrated. It reminds me of a time when I worked it was very early in nursing. I was taking care of a physician who had cancer. And, he had a very terrible fracture from a fall. And he needed surgery. And he was so angry and frustrated with all the staff. And it was really, really hard had I had a supervisor or a leader that said, listen, I'm going to give you a report on this person. This person, is a physician, right? Going through really difficult times and challenges, just recognized in a lot of pain, right? Has to go in for surgery. Usually the person that's in control, not in control. So come from a place of empathy. Understand that direction of anger and frustration isn't at you. It's being directed because the person isn't in control. That would have been like a huge help for me. And so I want you to, I share that story with you because I want you to know the power of leadership. You know what's happening around you in your environment. And when you get better at encouraging people to look at things from a different perspective, like, hey, I know this is a challenge for you, but I want to encourage you to look at it a different way, it's really going to help them to grow and respond in a place of empathy and compassion every single time. And listen, the flip side of this is if you don't do this, right? If you're not an encourager, what's going to happen is people are going to be triggered for sure. right? It just happens, right? If you're not that leader that's talking about, yeah, hey, you got to know your triggers and know what's going to trigger you, right? It is healthcare, right? It's unpredictable and people aren't their best. And so, somebody's going to say something that's going to be very triggering to the person. And instead of pausing, taking a couple deep breaths and recognizing that's a trigger for me and responding in an appropriate way, people are just going to react, right? That happens in our world. We see it every single day. But for your team members, if you're not encouraging them to look at the situation different, if you're not encouraging them to, keep going forward, even though they have these challenges, and you're jumping in to help and offer support, and how can I help support you? What can I do to make it better for you, right? And actually engaging in that dialogue so you can have a discussion and all right, does that person need more education, right, around a process? Does that person need more education maybe around systems? Does that person need more education around communication? Like, where is that support needed and what can you provide? If you're not even delving into that, then I guarantee you that person is just going to wind up just allowing all those frustrations to build and build and build. They're going to be like, I can't believe my boss isn't even recognizing this. And they're going to very quickly go down a road of being disengaged from you. They're going to push away from you and they're going to go somewhere else, searching for that leader that's going to be that person that's going to be able to engage with them. Listen, it's like everything in life, right? Every single relationship that you have with every single person is not like going to be easy. It's full of a lot of challenges. And I mean that, and I say that with a lot of love. I love having my husband and my children in my life, and I love my family, and I love everything about it. But are there going to be challenging times? Yeah, because we're human beings, right? Someone's going to respond in a stressful way, or I might respond in a stressful way, right? And that takes us naturally to a place where you're not seeing the best of us, and that can be triggering for people, right? If we don't know our triggers, very quickly we can respond from a place of not love, and we respond instead from a place where we judge people, and our words can be like weapons. And I say that because it takes tremendous courage just to take that pause and speak from a place of love and kindness, and to do it consistently every single time, especially when situations and tempers are rising and people are frustrated. And listen, you're going to be learning these skills and practicing these skills, but I can't stress this enough. You are going to have conversations with people, and your intention is going to be like, I want to make this better for the person, or I want to practice communication and ask them different questions to see how I can best support them. And there might be a time where it's not going to land the way you wanted. Listen, it's going to take tremendous courage to go back and look at that again, not from what did that person do to respond, but instead looking inward to say, okay, what could I have done differently in that situation? Was it a timing issue? Did I just choose the wrong time to have that conversation? Was it my tone? Was it the questions I asked? What could I have done differently? This is so important when it comes to leadership. I can't stress this enough, is really doing that self-reflection, looking inward, and recognizing that you're on a journey as well. Just like your team is learning, how do I provide care and delivery in every situation and build my skills and get to mastery and learn how to heal my heart every day from those everyday experiences so that I don't carry the weight of the world on me and I don't quickly then slip into burnout and not loving what I do. And that's because I wasn't doing the self-care I needed. It's no different from you. You're practicing in your leadership to be the best version of you. And so you have to be kind to yourself. You have to recognize that you are learning and you are practicing, and you're going to get better and you're going to get better, but you are definitely going to make mistakes in this journey. And I can't stress it enough. Number one, you just got to own that stuff. You got to keep at it with that determination and grit, not for any other reason other than this recognition that your goal, your ultimate goal, is to get to that consistency, that you're doing it in every single situation, regardless of what happens to you. So I'm going to ask you again at the beginning, when I asked you to think about a time when someone encouraged you, I want you to think about your team members. And I want you to think in particular of those team members that are a bit rocky right now, where just hearing an encouraging sort of word might make a difference in somebody. Just instead of when you're rounding, if you're just throwing out a lot of praise, how that's going to change somebody and how that might look different for the individual and what you could do differently to make it better. And listen, I want you to always remember, as a leader, you're doing all this because ultimately you're growing and developing in your skills and competencies here while you're in life school doing this important work. You lead people. You lead such an important workforce, a workforce that has all of these superpowers at their disposal that can be those individuals that heal people, that care for people when they are not well and when they're not operating at their personal best. But to do that, you've got to love what you do. You've got to get back in the game. And the easiest way to do it is to make sure you're operating from a place where you're encouraging your team members to be their personal best. And you're role modeling those behaviors so they can be the best version of them. And I want you to remember that there's good in what you do. You're doing an extraordinary job, so keep at it and push yourself further and further, because you can become an exemplary leader when you continue to practice these skills. Listen, I hope you learned something in this podcast, and I hope you join me for a future podcast. And again, thank you for everything you do every single day. You're doing an amazing job, and keep at it. Goodbye, everyone.